Thanks for joining me for another episode of Think About It, the thought-provoking devotional series from Field Quiver Outdoors. I'm your host, Jody Thibodeau, and it's my goal with this and every episode to help you fill your quiver with God in the great outdoors. I'm going a little bit off script this week with this week's scripture passage and devotion. It's not what I had originally intended to release and had in mind to release. But after the events of yesterday, which I am recording this here the day that it releases on Sunday, you are probably already aware of the attempted murder of former President Trump yesterday. And the inadvertent, unplanned, unfortunate death of an innocent bystander, as well as the injuries of a few others. But this week, just thinking about that has brought a scripture passage to my mind that I wanted to share, especially in the current climate of our country and world as a whole, as it is, where every little thing seems to be magnified well beyond what it should be and blown way out of proportion. And the listening to folks who are just speaking ill, only speaking ill of others, there's only tearing down and no building up. It's a question of who are we listening to, and are we speaking out against those who are speaking ill of others? Whether we disagree with someone or dislike someone, are we showing our disagreement or displeasure or voicing our differences in a Christian manner, or are we just ragging on them about what they're doing, what they're saying? It's okay to disagree with somebody, absolutely. It's okay to say that somebody's wrong about something, but back it up and do it biblically with love. And I know for most of my listeners, I'm just preaching to the choir, as it were, but I just want to read these couple of scriptures, and please don't misinterpret what I'm trying to say. These scripture passages that I'm reading from Samuel are referring to two people who were literally physically anointed to be kings of Israel. I do believe that God allows people to be put into certain positions. I believe God ensures that certain people are put into positions for His glory and His benefit. It's a matter of how we respond and how they respond that determines whether or not we're able to fulfill what it is that He has planned for us in our lives. But let me go ahead and read just this two verses, and I'm going to skip. The first verse is 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 7, which reads, "With these words David persuaded his men, and he did not let them rise up against Saul." Just for the background reference for those who are not familiar with this chapter, what had occurred is Saul was returning from pursuing the Philistines, and he was told where David was hiding, and he went out to look for David, ended up in the same cave as David. Well, David's men tried to talk him into going ahead and killing Saul so that he could become king. Instead, David cut off a portion of Saul's robe. And after he did this, he realized he was in the wrong. He needed to not listen to these other men that were telling him to go against God's will, and he needed to listen to God and let God handle God's business. Instead of him taking matters into his own hands. And now I'm going to, again, as I said there in reading this verse, he spoke up against it and told them that they were not going to rise up against Saul. He did what was right. And then I'm going to skip down to verse 13. which goes back to who do you listen to? Uh, as the old proverb says, wickedness comes from wicked people. My hand will never be against you. But the key emphasis that I want to focus on there is that first portion, and what the old proverb that he's referring to says, wickedness comes from wicked people. And just carry that back up to verse 7, where he elected not to listen to wickedness. And he was also, in the verses in between, David made reference to people speaking ill against David, saying that David was only out to get Saul, and his actions in the cave by sparing Saul proved that that was not the case. That was not true. And he knew that eventually God would remove Saul from the kingship and David would become king. So, my question for you today is, are you letting God handle God's business in God's time? Or are you listening to the wickedness that comes from wicked people and taking matters into your own hands in your own timing? Think about it.